Alrighty, welcome back. If you just joined the show, this is the perfect time to be a part of our program. And this segment of the show is not just, set out for just women. It's for everybody out there. We have a very special guest in the studio. He's not a stranger to us here at Silverbird TV. Of course, I have with me this morning Dr. Abayomi Ajayi. He's a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Good to have you in the studio, sir.
Same, it's my pleasure to be here.
All right, awesome. And today we're talking about navigating the surrogacy process. Yes. Okay, so like I mentioned, for women out there and also men that want to, ask questions and have contributions, you know what to do. Please head on down to our various pages. It's Silverbird Today across all platforms, to add your 2 cents to our conversation this morning. There's also a number of things happening in the world of entertainment, but before we dive into our main topic, I'd like to, ask the doctor a few questions. So there's a story about this certain man called Killer Boy, and I want to share his the details of the story with you, basically. So according to the details from the dailies, it says police declare Killer Boy wanted for murder of his girlfriend Augusta. So a while back he came online, and then he talked about it. He talked about how he was depressed, and talked about different things really. But it's taken so long now, and now the police have come out to declare him wanted. I don't know. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I guess it's one of the things that we have to face in modern day Nigeria. This guy was actually, from reports, I'd had a brush with the FCC before now.
Yes.
So it colors everything that who are we really dealing with. And then he made like almost a confession online. And
I was surprised. It was really surprising.
Exactly.
I first thought maybe he was struggling with mental health issues or depression or something like that.
But somebody died.
Yes.
That's enough. So
well, that is enough, But I don't know why the police didn't swing into action on time.
Exactly. What is actually I don't understand myself.
Yeah. Well, that's really strange. But you know what? Let's leave that aside for now and head on down to our major topic today. So like I mentioned just before we talked about this story, our topic today is navigating the surrogacy process. So for those who don't even know what surrogacy is, I'd like you to educate us, please. What is surrogacy and what does the process entail?
Wow. Well, let's start from saying that surrogacy is an arrangement, usually backed by legal agreement, where a woman agrees to get pregnant, have a baby, and hand it over to another woman or a couple. So even from the description or the definition, you see that there are a lot of things that we need to consider in this. Yes. Legal, ethical issues.
So many.
There are many hoops that we have to scale through. And so now when I see that people want to, in Nigeria, it's almost like, this point and kill now.
Okay, just pick the one you want.
Yeah, and they're not thinking of all the ramifications that what can go wrong in all this. Because right now, I run a fertility clinic. You see people coming to me and say, I want to do surrogacy. And I say, why do you want to do surrogacy? Okay,
which leads me nicely to my next question. Who are the surrogates and really what qualifies a person to be a surrogate?
Okay. Well, the American Society for Reproductive Medicine and the European Society for Reproduction have identified the qualities of somebody, ideal person that can be a surrogate. She must be between 21 and 45 years old.
Okay.
Preferably that she's had at least one baby before, successfully had a pregnancy and delivered, but not more than 5 children. Okay. And then if she's had cesarean section, not more than 3 cesarean sections. So such a person.
Well, how do you know if the person has had more than 3 cesarean sections?
We take history. We talk to them.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's like a screening before I actually qualify to be a surrogate.
Okay.
So there is the assessment, the medical assessment, the psychological assessment. So that's what I mean, that there are a lot of things that we need to look at, because a lot of things can go wrong during the process. One of the things that people take for granted is that the autonomy of the surrogate is always protected. You know? So And that can be a problem along the pathway. And that's why I tell people that if you don't need surrogacy, please do not touch it.
Okay. And I like the fact that you mentioned if it's supposed to be. Okay, but that said though, what's the difference between traditional and there's a word now, is gestational?
Gestational, yeah.
Gestational surrogacy.
Yeah.
And what is that word itself? What is gestational surrogacy?
Well, when we say gestational surrogacy, what we're saying is that we're just borrowing your womb.
Okay.
You are not contributing your DNA to the baby. So let's take it step by step. The traditional is the one that where the surrogate is genetically related to the baby. That means we are using our eggs. Okay.
Yes.
Initially, that was how we did surrogacy. Of course, that complicated the picture more, because one of the problems that can arise at the end of the day is that the surrogate can say, I don't want to release the baby.
Yes.
And now, if she's genetically related to that baby,
it might be tougher.
It's now tougher. So that's why gestational surrogacy is what we do most of the time now, whereby the surrogate is not linked to the baby at all genetically. So we don't use the eggs of the surrogate, so we get donor eggs, or the commissioning couple, the eggs of the woman in the amongst the two of them, or between the two of them, to be the eggs that we use. So all we're just doing is using the surrogate's womb. So initially it was called rent a womb.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, but
okay, that's a peculiar way to call it. But other than that, though, generally, how are surrogates screened, and how do they become pregnant? I know that you explained the details, some details of it, but how do they actually become pregnant?
Fantastic. For surrogates to be pregnant, then they need IVF. When you're talking about gestational surrogacy,
okay,
they have to do IVF. Okay, because there is no intercourse between the man and the surrogate.
Okay.
Okay. In traditional, that could happen, and that's one of the problems that was with that. Or we're using the man's sperm to fertilize this other person's egg. So that in gestational, IVF is done. So we take the sperm. So the sperm can come from the commissioning couple. But if the man does not have good sperm, or he doesn't have any sperm, we could use donor sperm.
Okay.
We could use with his wife. And also sometimes if the wife's eggs are not good, we could use donor eggs with the man's sperm. Okay. And sometimes we can even use donor sperm, donor eggs
at the same time.
Exactly. But the only thing is that the surrogate is not related at all
to them,
to the baby.
Which brings me to my next question about legal agreements, contracts, because if you're taking an egg that's unrelated and sperms that's unrelated to a person, to a surrogate, so there are different parties now that's involved. So what are the legal agreements that binds all the parties involved?
Well, in some countries where there are surrogacy laws, it's easier, all right? But in Nigeria, for example, there are no laws yet. I know there are a lot of moves to get laws. Lagos State is trying to enact some laws about that. I think they had an open hearing sometimes very recently. So yes, but when there are no laws, what we suffice now is like a contract.
Okay.
And a lawyer is involved from the get-go, and they draft this contract, and then to protect the two parties. Some of the things that they look at, they try to look at the possible things that can go wrong. For example, we had one recently where the couple, during COVID, that the couple came from abroad to come and do, not in my clinic anyway, but it happened. They came from abroad to come and do surrogacy in Nigeria.
Okay.
And then the surrogate got pregnant. The intending couple, they contacted COVID. The two of them died.
Oh, wow.
So those are some of the things that you need to look at in the contract.
Yes.
What happens to the baby should already be in the contract when such unfortunate things happen.
Well, that is very, very unfortunate.
It is.
But really quickly, let's quickly talk about possible pitfalls of the surrogacy process. I mean, are there pitfalls? Are there drawbacks?
Many pitfalls. That would like one of the ones that we just mentioned now. But if we look at historically what even led us to this, where majority of the people don't do gestational. They don't do apart from gestational surrogacy. Why traditional surrogacy seems to have died was because the first surrogacy agreement in the U.S. was drafted by a gentleman called Noel King in 1976.
That was a while back.
Exactly. But it was not tested until 1986 when actually Melissa King was born, the baby, what normally referred to as baby M.
Yes.
Who shook the whole world because of what we're trying to describe now. The surrogate had the baby and then said she was not going to release the baby. Unfortunately, it was traditional surrogacy. So she was actually
given custody.
No, she was related to the baby.
Okay.
The surrogate was. Yeah, but finally they gave custody to the intending couple, and that's why in some states now they've been able to enact the law that the parents are the people who decide they want to have a baby.
Okay.
Not because you just carried the baby. But of course, even in the U.S., different states have different laws. So it's really now very disturbing in a country like Nigeria where we don't have anything
those
guiding
laws that
us.
bind or guide us.
Nothing is guiding us. So sometimes it can be funny in the sense that some people also say they are doing surrogacy when they are not doing surrogacy. Some baby factories are hiding under surrogacy, you know. And but sometimes people don't, either they don't want to find out the difference, or they are it's just comfortable for them because it's something that is going on rampantly in our society. People are buying babies. But other things so the lawyer is very important in this surrogacy agreement, and the lawyer must be knowledgeable enough to be able to draft something that will protect the two parties. But also sometimes we've seen where something has gone wrong even during delivery. Okay, and there is a complication. And of course, another one that happened recently in Thailand, well, not too recent, about 2013, was the baby Gami also, where an Australian couple came to Thailand, got a Thai woman to be their surrogate. She got pregnant with twins. At 7 months, it was detected that one of the twins, the boy, actually had Down syndrome, and the girl was normal. And so they asked the woman to let them
take one of the babies.
Actually, the couple wanted to terminate the one with the Down syndrome, and the woman said no, that she would rather take care of the baby when the baby is born. And the baby was now born. They took the normal girl back to Australia and left the one with Down syndrome. And so the woman now came online asking for help to look after her, and she raised about $250,000 for that.
For that baby.
For that baby. Finally, the baby now has also been given Australian citizenship. So some things can really, and that's why when we see people just taking it with levity, because sometimes if you are not careful, the children born might be stateless. You know, if for example, you know, Ukraine is a destination for surrogacy. People go a lot to Ukraine for surrogacy until the war broke out. In fact, when the war broke out, there was so many babies that were stranded that the parents had to come for them. So sometimes because the state where they are born, because they are not the people who own them, especially where they do international surrogacy, they are not, the parents are not from that country where they are born. So they don't belong to that country. And they can't, now if there is a problem in taking them to where they belong to, so what happens to the babies?
Yeah, it becomes a major problem still. Well, I wish we had more time to really delve into this, because this is really, really interesting. But before we let you leave, sir, final words, what would you like to share for intending parents that would like to, you know, go through the surrogacy process?
Yes, as complex as it is, it also can be easy, especially if you get the people who know about it. Either the agency, you have an agency who knows about it. Unfortunately, also, there's so many agencies that spring up at night now in Nigeria. But if you get the right agency, get the right centers where they're not going to compromise on anything, then you can, so many people have had babies from surrogacy.
Yes.
And you also can have
All right.
that.
Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure.
All right, if you've been wondering who I've been speaking with, I've been talking to Dr. Abayomi Ajayi, consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, and we've been talking so far about navigating the surrogacy process. But there is so much more to talk about on the show today. So we'll go on a quick break. When we get back, we've got some other guests as well, and Tony's going to be leading us through those conversations. So please stay with us. This is Celebrate Today.